that corruption needs to be suffocated before it suffocates our country. Having listened to you, it appears that from your response that a new decisive drive against corruption is in place. Now, Mr. President, taking into account that doubting Thomases will always be there, some justifiably so, what mechanisms will be at the disposal of South Africans as a tool of comfort in ensuring that this game changer is being implemented and the progress is there to see? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Gungubele. The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much. You look very different with that beard.
It looks ugly.
Honorable Mthembu, you are out of order.
During COVID, I was tempted to grow a beard to look like you, but I thought it would be too gray. Now it makes you look a little older than what you are. Madev. Thank you very much, Honorable Gungubele. Yes, we need to take this moment as a turning point in our fight against corruption. And may I say that, I've been scanning quite a number of other experiences in other countries. And I've also taken time to speak to other heads of state. And many of them are going through exactly the same challenge that we are going through. That PPEs gave people with corrupt intent, with fraudulent intent, an opportunity just to make a quick buck and overcharge government in many, many other countries. And it brought to the surface a number of hustlers, a number of fake businesses, and all that. So this is a moment that we now need to deal with corruption much more seriously. And I've said that on the procurement side, I'd like to see much more transparency as a mechanism, much more openness, so that everyone can see how the goods and services that we purchase are going to be dealt with and what amounts of monies are going to be spent. And we are not saying that people must not make a profit. Of course, people must make a profit. And through this, we also want to ensure that there is radical economic transformation so that our people who have been previously prevented from getting into business are able to run businesses legitimately. We want to see that happening. But at the same time, we want public resources to be properly utilized. So the mechanisms that we will want to put in place to make sure that tender processes are properly overseen, we have a mechanism or mechanisms that are going to ensure that that happens. But at the same time, if there is any faltering along the line, the criminal justice system must be so well strengthened, so well capacitated that it is able to kick in and make sure that it deals with those who get involved in malfeasance. Now, our criminal justice entities have been shortchanged when it comes to resources. They don't have enough investigators. They don't have enough resources. And we want to resource them. So that is another mechanism that we want to rely on to make sure that they are strengthened. And if we can just do that, we will find that those who want to cheat the state will find it very, very difficult, because they will find that our institutions have been strengthened enough. For instance, we are now we're going to gravitate towards having an institution that will have investigative powers and capability, as well as prosecutorial powers when it comes to commercial crimes. What used to be called, yes, the scorpions in the past, that is what the moment we have now of dealing with commercial malfeasance and corruption now requires. We're busy looking at how we will be able to, yes, bring that back to life and make sure that you are investigated. The investigators immediately have the capability to prosecute, so that there isn't a big interregnum in between where you investigate and thereafter, much longer, you then rely on prosecutors. So when it comes to cases of corruption, we are going to be much more focused. That is another mechanism that we are going to want to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third supplementary question will be put to you by the Honorable S. Malema.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Dumatsiari, President. I want to dismiss this allegation you are making that you are going to revive the Scorpions because there is an ANC resolution in Polokwane that did away with the Scorpions, and therefore any other thing will require something of that nature to change that earlier decision. So we shouldn't be easily misled. That is beside the point. Do you agree with me, Mr. President, that corruption in South Africa is deep-rooted to a point where even your own spokesperson was implicated in these PPE scandals? The whole office of the president has people who are involved in some of these allegations of PPE. It's a confirmation that indeed the higher office, if it's involved, you can imagine what is happening in a Blueberg municipality. But President, if you unseal the CR17 documents, you make it easy for us to see if the donors of CR17 are not the beneficiaries of PPEs. You say you are fighting corruption, yet you have sealed documents which will help us to hold you and your party and your ministers accountable. So I think that it's just a lip service to say you are fighting corruption, whereas at the same time you are not telling us who donated to CR17 so that we can quickly check if these people are not beneficiaries of the PPEs. The other question is, don't you think it's time we must do away with the tendering system and build internal capacity to avoid this type of corruption, particularly on simple things such as masks? The state can produce its own mask. The last one, President, is if you are serious, you want to take action, and you want people to see that indeed the president is an anti-corruption activist, why are you not establishing the special courts like we did with 2010? Let us establish the special courts to prosecute thugs of PPEs. This is a mass murder being committed, because if they steal that man which can buy more PPEs, it means people are going to die, and people are dying in their numbers. Why are you not establishing the special courts so that we arrest these people now and we avoid this mass murder? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malema. The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malema. Ndialibuwa ngamanda ndilibuwa nanga uri bo thoma wamba ngaluambo lwa hashu ndiazilibuwa. You started off, and I'm not really going to respond to this, because the process of getting structures of government to work effectively to fight corruption has to be based on their functionality, on their capability. And if we find that, yes, there can be great functionality and capability in getting certain structures to work in a particular way, then we should be able to proceed to deal with that. I will not deal with party political conferences when it comes to this. You also touched on the spokesperson of the president, who you say was involved in all this. The spokesperson has stepped aside. We're looking into that matter, and we will be dealing with this matter once we've gone into it. The issue of the funding of what you call the CR17 funding and the donor list, that matter is in court. It is in court, and we must allow that court process to proceed. And I think we all know that sometimes to preempt what a court will rule is not often the best of things. And I hear now the allegation you make that those who may well have donated were involved in PPE contracting. I don't know about that. You bring up a very good suggestion that maybe we should do away with the tendering system. But you also say that it should be supported or underpinned by what you possibly could call insourcing, that we should make our own PPEs. And that, Honorable Malema, is a very good suggestion, but we would also say it should be based on localization, because government right now does not have the capability of making masks, of making PPEs, but we want to ensure that those PPEs are made here in South Africa and that black companies get involved in making those PPEs. I have been wonderfully, wonderfully impressed when I've seen a number of women making masks, face masks, and sewing them, and the sewing process has just started unleashing a lot of energy around the country with many women and many co-ops being involved in making PPEs. Now, that is what we must encourage. But we're also saying that we must be able to buy those at a fair price. Yes, there must be a markup, they must make a profit so that they can make a living, but at the same time, the profits must not be excessive. I would agree with you that we now need to look at the tendering system as a whole, because a lot of services and processes have been outsourced to tenderpreneurs. There now needs to come a time when we need to look at this, and I know that COSATU and other trade unions are beginning to ask themselves a lot of questions around this. Should we be outsourcing everything to tenderpreneurs, or should we also be saying, yes, many things can be done in-house in the government by people who are in the government system. And in many ways that will help and lead to the strengthening of the state capacity. You raised the question of special courts. You'll be pleased to know, Honorable Malema, that we're looking at this issue of courts that will focus on COVID-19. And I will be speaking about this in time to come, because we do need to deal with the backlog. Many of our courts have huge backlogs when it comes to cases of corruption and commercial corruption and what have you. And we now need, as we have to scourge of corruption, we now need to deal with them in a specialized manner. So we will be focusing attention on this, and I will be speaking about this in time to come. But thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary of this question will go to the Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, when you became the President of the Republic of South Africa, you said we are entering a new dawn, and you declared war on corruption. Now, a couple of years down the line, we must hear that the ANC is accused number one. And it's no wonder, because you are also on record that you said that the interest of the ANC is actually above the interest of South Africa. When you announced the support package of 500 billion because of the COVID-19, you are on record, Honorable President, when you said, we will ensure that there is no misappropriation of these funds. By making that announcement, you created the message and the impression to the people of South Africa that you knew about the possibility of corruption and that you took certain measures. Now, my follow-up to you is, what measures did you have in mind and did you implement when you made this announcement to the people of South Africa? Because if you didn't have the measures there, then you misled the people of South Africa. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Groenewald. The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I do not, Honourable Groenewald, ever remember saying that the interests of the ANC are above the interests of South Africa. They certainly are not. South Africa comes first, because that is the entity that we all pay our allegiance to. When I was sworn in as president, I was sworn in to advance the interests of the people of South Africa. And that is what I am committed to doing. I was not sworn in to advance the interests of a party. I was sworn in to advance the interests of the people of South Africa. What will I do to ensure that we have measures that are going to prevent corruption? And what measures did I have in mind? As we went into the process of setting aside this 500 billion, which, by the way, many people believe that the 500 billion, the entire 500 billion has been stolen. That is far from the truth. Far, far from the truth. What has actually been spent on PPEs, as per the Treasury records, is about 11 billion rand. And much of that money has gone into buying